this to fully see if we get streaming. All right, it says I'm streaming on Twitch. It says sending data to YouTube Live. Okay, now it says we're streaming on both. Great. Yeah, just bear with me, guys. I'm just kind of starting this all up. This is really just a rough test run, just to kind of get some kind of initial video up here. But I guess as a simple introduction, my name is Philosopher Ray. You can just call me Ray. And I am one of the last few living philosophers out in the wild, right? Living out in the wild. Kind of half a joke, but somewhat serious in the sense that just how many philosophers do you know? Do you even know what the hell a philosopher is? Well, I guess that's maybe part of the point of my channel. So what does that mean, first of all, if I say that, like, I'm a philosopher? Well, it means, I guess more academically, I'm kind of early on starting an academic career in philosophy. Right now I have a master's degree in philosophy that I just finished, this past year. I do teach college level philosophy. I was somewhat fortunate to get pretty decent teaching opportunity right out of my master's, both at community college and university. And I'm currently applying for what I call boomer PhD programs, which is kind of my name for these old school PhD programs are very bougie and exclusive and competitive. It's the old school way of doing it, where you get like full funding and a stipend to go do your PhD. Right now, my current plan is spend the next 1 to 2 years getting, as much teaching experience as possible as an MA, and then within, the next 1 to 2 years, hopefully be starting a boomer PhD program. But basically, so that's one sense of what a philosopher is, right? Like an academic philosopher. And in that regard, I'm still kind of early in my career, but I am working towards a career in that. And I do have a lot of background in education and philosophy. I do teach philosophy. I know a good amount about it. Can talk about it for hours. But, sometimes philosopher, people can use the term to just mean like a public intellectual, a thinker in a much more generic sense. It's kind of interesting, the ancient Greeks would have used the term philosopher to mean anybody that pursues a pursuit of knowledge in of itself rather than some kind of a practical skill. So a lot of the things we would today call science, math, a lot of those disciplines would fall under what they would have called philosophy. We live in a day and age in which kind of a lot of misunderstandings about how things work and a lot of these disciplines work uh, have led to people kind of separating things like science and math from philosophy and kind of lumping philosophy stereotypically into just the liberal arts or the humanities broadly. But this isn't really necessarily what philosophy is. Philosophy is just the study of all first order questions, the study of all things that come first, the questions you ask before anything else. Science may ask, what's the nature of a certain category of things in existence? Philosophy asks, what is existence itself? That's just an example, right? Um, so, that's kind of what philosophy is generally. And due to a lot of misconceptions and misunderstandings people have, they tend to, uh, have these misunderstandings. They think, oh, what are you going to do with a degree in that? How is philosophy relevant? How is it applicable? Which just strikes me as sometimes, with all due respect to those who think it, and I get why you think it, there's a lot of failures of our public education system, and even higher education system that have contributed to those kinds of misconceptions. But in reality, philosophy could not be more directly relevant and immediately applicable to like every aspect of your day-to-day life, because philosophy is effectively just a study of everything. The famous philosopher who defines philosophy as just the study of how things, in the broadest possible sense of the term things, hang together, in the broadest possible sense of the term hang together. It's one of my favorite definitions of philosophy, but it's the most important questions you might ask yourself in your day-to-day life. Why even get out of bed in the morning? Why do anything? What's the meaning of life? What is good? What is bad? What is existence? What is being? What is knowledge? How do you know it? These are questions that come before anything else. And philosophy, and only philosophy, engages with them explicitly. So, now that I've kind of given you my little sales pitch for an interest in something like philosophy, why am I giving you that sales pitch? Well, because that's a part of the sales pitch for my channel. You see, I am somebody who's both a philosopher and I would like to say somewhat of an artist as well. I've always been very creative. I'm working on a book. And I've also had this idea for a while now to want to start getting into content creation, both streaming and making more YouTube friendly formatted videos for a long time. And something with this kind of idea of wanting to have do the on kinds of online content that like people like engaging with and watching, that people will turn to a streamer to watch or a YouTuber to watch. Uh, Things like React content, commentary content, maybe even little gaming content, current events and topical issues. These kinds of things. People flock to the internet, flock to streamers, flock to YouTubers to just digest and absorb hours and hours and hours of that kind of content already. Well, my idea was I just wanted to do content like that and make it legitimately fun and relatable and engaging, and the kinds of things you like watching streamers and YouTubers and whatnot do anyway, but bring a philosophical element into it and an educational component to it. And when I say educational or like educational channel, I almost sometimes want to avoid that term just because I don't want to like put anybody off. Some people hear like educational channel and they think like Crash Course, that old John Green series, or things that maybe are just kind of boring to them. But that stuff's dated. There are some people who've done some educational channels before, like John Green. I think even a few specifically related to philosophy, like Wisecrack, I think I'm thinking of. But those are kind of dated. Those are like 10, 15 years ago. That's like early 2010s era YouTube kind of format. And I've been really interested in just what the hell this like crazy area that is the internet has become today, where you've got Twitch streamers. I think a lot of people are turning more to the streaming now, but you've still got YouTube, but even the YouTube content looks a lot different than it did 10 years ago. And even that's really shifting towards that shorter form TikTok format of YouTube Shorts. And then of course you got TikTok, right? So like everything's different. And I just want to try to engage with the internet and create content in a way that's interesting and is just the kind of content people watch anyway, react, commentary, maybe a little gaming, whatever. But, if I can make it educational in a way, if I can bring philosophy into it and scratch that philosophical urge that I think a lot of people have in their day-to-day lives because they don't, God knows they're not getting it fulfilled in public school or even in a lot of colleges. And if I can kind of provide that to people, and maybe they learn a little something about philosophy, or maybe just the liberal arts broadly. I'm also interested in history. I double majored in history and philosophy for undergrad. Be happy to talk history stuff too, the arts in general. Somebody can have a little bit of an educational and enlightening experience in the content, that they absorb online. I'd feel like I got my job done, and I'd feel really good about that. Guys, remember, I'm a teacher. I'm just starting a teaching career, teaching college, not even like a high school teacher or something. I teach philosophy. And, and at a time when everybody warns against going into higher education, everybody warns against going into academia, everybody says now's the worst time to do it. Nobody knows what to do. All the boomer professors I work with don't even know what the fuck to do anymore. AI and the way everything works, the system's falling apart. The traditional college system's falling apart. Everybody always warns you, oh God, don't go to grad school for the humanities and hope you're going to come out of it and get some kind of a nice, secure tenure track professor position at the end of it. God knows that's never going to happen, right? Because it's all falling apart. And yet I'm still going into it. But you know what I do? I go into it with a mindset. There's a Latin phrase. I actually coined it, at least as far as I know. I don't know anybody else who uses this. It's not like a Latin phrase I stole from someone else. It's a Latin phrase I came up with myself because, yes, you get to where I am in education, and you need to know a little Latin and Greek. And it's a Latin phrase of mine that I consider my motto. I'd want it on my tombstone. Innovare aut morere. Innovare aut morere. It's Latin for, in English, it would be innovate or die. Innovate or die. That's been my motto. You know, another fun fact about me, I used to, I briefly went to law school right after I finished undergrad, you know, studying history and philosophy on my bachelor's, and then everybody kind of bullied me into going to law school. When I say bullied, I mean like parents and advisors. Oh, that's the only way you're ever going to make a lot of money. That's if you're a humanities guy and you like history and you like philosophy and you're a good writer and all of that. Just go to law school, go to law school, go to law school. That's the only way you're ever going to make a bunch of money. Well, I tried doing that and I was fucking miserable there. Absolutely miserable. Probably would have like isekai'd myself if I'd stayed there much longer. So I'm glad I got out when I did within like a semester and a half. And I was in a good DC law school. By the way, I don't want to dox myself. I'll just say it was a DC law school considered quite bougie and well respected on an 80% scholarship, mind you. And I walked away from it in order to go do a master's degree in philosophy and now going into teaching philosophy and applying to boomer PhD programs in philosophy. So that just shows you my level of commitment in all of this. And what I'm trying to say, which is you better believe as somebody who could be some just starting out a career as some like fancy DC lawyer making a bunch of money and walked away from that to do academic philosophy. You better believe I'm somebody who's gone into this out of a relentless passion for my field and under the motto of innovate or die. And what do I mean by that? I mean, we're at a time when everything's falling apart in higher education and education in general, in society and culture in general. I don't even think anybody really disagrees with that general claim anymore, at least not on the internet. And every time you have these periods of great change, you always have an older generation of boomers who just can't comprehend things working any differently than the way they've been working for a long time, and therefore say this is the end of everything as we know it. And then you always have a younger generation, and of that younger generation, you have a talented group among them. And the most talented members of that younger generation, they come along and they say, hey, rather than just like throwing our hands up in the air and giving up, let's dare to be innovative. Let's dare to be creative. Let's dare to be bold. Let's actually create something new and redesign this whole system in a way that can accommodate these changes and move with them. You know, don't just collapse in fear in the face of these changes, but you know, participate in them and redesign the system to function in line with them. And I think that's sorely needed in higher education right now, in academia as a whole, and in society as a whole. And so I've already pulled off weird, crazy things in my academic career. It's kind of crazy that like I already have the level of teaching opportunity I do. That's considered kind of unusual to pull off. You know, this early on, like just coming out of your master's. And I didn't do some big bougie prestigious master's program either. I did a small program at a small university. But my point is, it's because I've been innovative and I've tried going about things a different way. And so what I'm trying to say, guys, is taking that motto, innovare aut morere, innovate or die, and applying it here. I think education can really have a future in stuff like this. Ooh, sorry. Stuff like, because I'm like knocking things over, I'm getting excited here. It can have a future in online content creation, in YouTube videos, in streaming, and TikTok and stuff like that. I know maybe some of that sounds kind of cheesy. There have been people saying that for a little while now and sort of pans out to varying different degrees. But I guess I'm not talking about like just having this dumb like John Green style like stereotype. When I say John Green, I mean the like Crash Course History, that kind of series, like 15-year-old dated format that's just like basically trying to make you the kinds of YouTube videos that like your professor would show you in the classroom. Um, I'm not really trying to do that. I'm trying to just be like a streamer and a YouTuber and have fun with it, but do it in a way that has that educational component. And I really think even moving beyond not just how education works, but just how things like philosophy work. That was how I got on this topic to begin with, how philosophy works, rather. What it means to be a philosopher. I just imagine the glory days in ancient Athens of a man like Socrates walking around poor as shit, nobody liked him, controversial as all hell, basically just causing problems everywhere he went, up to the point he gets publicly executed for it, or he gets sentenced to death for basically being a chronic asshole and pissing everybody off so much and making them feel dumb. That's a real philosopher. You got to respect somebody like that. He was poor as shit. And he didn't write anything down. He wasn't even like an artist or a writer in that sense. The only reason we know anything about him is because one of his students, his star pupils, Plato, a name you probably recognize, a very famous Greek philosopher, is one of his students. And Plato went and wrote down a bunch of dialogues and accounts of conversations with and narratives about Socrates decades after the fact. And that's the only reason we know anything about him is through Plato. Um, and so what I'm trying to say, so it's not like Socrates was sitting there like writing a a dissertation and submitting it for peer review. That's not the spirit of a philosopher, man. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are positives about the academic environment. I really feel at home in it. I've never felt that's part of why I've gone into this career. I've never felt more at home in a professional environment than in the university and in an academic environment and in a philosophy department. It's where I'm meant to be. And that's why I'm continuing to pursue, um, continuing to pursue that as my IRL career. Um, but it's just to say, like, or like I just did the qualifying paper on my master's thesis, and I just submitted it to like readers, and then I had to verbally defend it, and then it's like, look, don't get me wrong, I enjoyed doing my master's thesis. It was an involved project. I enjoyed having the opportunity to do it, but it's like that kind of scholarship. It's not the spirit of a philosopher in the origin of what and who a philosopher is. Someone more like Socrates. That's who the philosopher is. And so I feel like what I'm trying to get to is if Socrates were around today, I really think Socrates would be a streamer and a YouTuber and would go online and piss people off online, be kind of a troll, and do a lot of his philosophy online, right? Because he was a man of discourse. And where better to engage in public discourse nowadays but the internet? So I guess what I was trying to build to when I say educational channel, I've tried to caution against this. Doesn't mean this is going to be some boring like John Green Crash Course U.S. History channel. It means I'm going to do fun content stuff. I'm just going to try to bring an educational and philosophical element into it. And that's the goal that's the plan. That's the idea I've been toying with for several years now. I've just been quite busy. And it's only now that I technically have a little time off in between my master's program and teaching, that I decided to sit down and start give this a go. So, I guess last point of clarification. Why the VTuber thing? I haven't addressed that part yet. Well, I've been kind of fascinated with the whole VTuber culture, seeing it kind of grow in popularity over these past few years. And so my first and foremost interest in it, to be entirely frank, is are due to practical considerations, and most importantly, the ability to relatively easily maintain a greater degree of anonymity with your online persona. Your ability to still have a persona and still have an animated, avatar, but not having to even bother animating it yourself. The whole cartoon avatar thing, has been a thing on like YouTube going back what it's like early 2010s. That's not new. But you usually had to either have the animation and editing skill to do that yourself, or have the resources and the time and the ability to go hire somebody to animate and edit for you, which I never had the time for. But I like how VTubing just kind of lets you take that old school cartoon avatar shtick and just do it seamlessly. Now it did take me like a little bit to teach myself how things like OBS and VTube Studio work, and I am still figuring them out. They're still an active work in progress. But still, I really like the idea, and I'll also say, while I am not a weeaboo, the way I like to put it is I like to say I'm weeb adjacent. I'm weeb adjacent. And what I mean by that is, like, I'm not a total full-on weeaboo, but I kind of exist somewhat in an orbit of proximity of that culture, such that I'm an anime fan. I like anime. I like the general aesthetic. I love Japanese culture. Actually, this fall, fun fact, one of the universities where I'm teaching a couple classes, there's I'm going to be sitting in on, just auditing, just for fun, a Buddhist philosophy class, just because I get to do that for free. You know, that's one of the perks of teaching college, is like you can just sit in on other people's classes for free. And it's funny because I had somebody ask me the other day, like, what you want to voluntarily spend your free time like doing the reading and some of the homework for a college class, and sit in on all the lectures for a college class that you're not taking for credit or don't even need at this point. I'm like, oh yeah, of course I do. Why wouldn't I? That shit's freaking interesting. It's a free upper level class on Buddhist philosophy. Why would I not want to take that class? Like that's like, what the fuck? I don't know. Am I just weird? This is what I mean. Are philosophers like me really so weird and unusual of people? I mean, I get maybe it's a little unusual to want to go into it fully and make it your life and your career, but surely people out there can empathize with some of what I'm saying right now, you know? Anyway, so, you know, I like Japanese culture, and language. I'm not fluent. I speak a little bit. I picked up over the years. I like anime. I have my obligatory Crunchyroll um, subscription. But but anyway, I um I think somebody just posted something in my chat. What the fuck? All right, whatever. I'll figure this out later. I'm not supposed to have an audience, so I don't know. It's kind of confusing to me. Whatever. Um. Anyway, so my point is, I'm the VTubing. I like the anime culture and stuff. I'm not a weeaboo, but maybe I'm like weeb adjacent. But most importantly, I greatly value the ability to have a anonymity and some distance between my online persona and my real life identity, and that's especially important considering I am still continuing to pursue a real life academic career that I'm still kind of in the earlier stages of. And you guys don't need me to explain to you, people can get kind of edgy on the internet, and you know, I don't want anything I don't know, I just don't want internet culture stuff being connected publicly to me when I'm out there trying to like get accepted credibly by universities and whatnot, and applying for PhD programs and teaching college and whatnot. Um, so yeah, that's kind of the primary reason. So I do right now, obviously, in case it's not painfully obvious, I'm just right now running with, in the short term, running with this free to download, almost glorified PNG tuber kind of avatar. Um, but you know, this is just free to download on VTube Studio. It's obviously very bare bones. It's just kind of like the facial expressions animating, and that's in the lip syncing, and even that's kind of like bare bones. It gets the job done in the short term, but the good news is I do have a good friend of mine who I have you know, is currently designing me like an actual legit avatar that I should hopefully have within the next month or two. I figured in the short term I could start, as I'm like still teaching myself OBS and VTube Studio and all of these things, I could just start doing test streams with this kind of free to download, free to use, like bare bones anime boy avatar. So this should just be temporary the way I look now. Um, yeah, so I mean, that's kind of the gist of it. I just wanted to have like some kind of an initial recording um laid down uh to view. I'm using Restream to dual cast to both Twitch and YouTube Live. Part of why I'm doing that, I didn't realize Twitch does not permanently save the recording of a past stream. Right, mine it says it only for like 7 days. I think you have to subscribe or something. Um, in order to get it to last longer. But YouTube Live, YouTube will just save your past live streams. It's just like YouTube videos, right? So it's kind of maybe a better archive. Right now, I don't really have a live audience. And so, I'm mainly doing these for the benefit of having them recorded. So, maybe what I might start doing is, because I also want to make more pre-recorded YouTube videos. So I was thinking of maybe starting to, and that I have some experience with in video editing. So I was thinking of maybe starting to make some script out and record some more, like YouTube friendly formatted videos, but maybe making a live stream out of the process of recording and editing and making the YouTube video, if that makes sense. I also might do some React content, like Real Philosopher Reacts. I don't know. That might be interesting. I might, probably will do a lot of commentary style stuff. And, and, yeah, I mean, that's kind of the loose, it's just a very general loose plan right now. I plan to do this as I continue to, start teaching in the fall. And, even if I end up in a PhD program, I just want to get to the point where I'm doing this as a hobby no matter what and just see where it goes from there. I'm still very early on, and please everybody bear with me as I'm still figuring out all the tech stuff and figuring out how all this stuff works. And of course, if anybody's interested in this, I know I'm just speaking into the void, and I don't know if anybody would ever go back and watch the recording of a lot of my very first super rough live stream I ever did, however long ago it was relative to when they might be in my channel. There's a good chance nobody will ever see this, but if anybody is interested in this and what I'm doing, by all means, I'm very interested to work with people, very interested to get whatever help I can, and I'm looking for all kinds of things. I do have an artist I'm working with for the avatar and some channel art. I need like an editor, probably somebody to help me manage social media, maybe. Um, and like a manager. Like I mean, all these things I guess will come with time. For now, I'm just doing it as a hobby. But yeah, if anybody's interested, I do have a business email. It's realphilosopherray@gmail.com. RealPhilosopherray @gmail.com. Real Philosopher Ray. And you can always reach out to me for business inquiries there. Although, like I said, I know probably no one will ever see this. So, okay, I think I'll end it there for now. Like I said, super rough intro video just so I have something down. Thanks, everybody, and have a good night.